Hey, this is Anthony from The Wildlife, and you're listening to Breakdowns for Breakfast podcast.
Good morning. Welcome back to another episode of Breakdowns for Breakfast. I am your host, Danger, and joining me is a fellow that cannot properly break down an album without Monster. Say hi, Monster.
Good morning. How are you?
I'm fine. How are you?
I don't know why I asked that because we are both doing miserably, but We're here.
Yes, Monster is dealing with a cold or a flu that won't go away, and I am getting over a kidney stone. So we're here for all of you listening, all four of you listening. So
yeah, I was just going to say, just know the effort we put into this for all four of you.
Yeah. So on this episode of Breakdowns for Breakfast, we're going to be talking about Killswitch Engage's brand new album, This Consequence, that was released February 21st, 2025, and we are recording this March 7th, 2025. So, and Monster pointed out to him before we got started that as of recording this, Killswitch played last night in our neck of the woods.
Yes.
Okay. And that was their headlining tour, but they're actually going out on the road in support of somebody else here soon, which neither one of us bothered to look up who it was. But yeah. So anyway, how did you feel about this? Because you've come dressed for the occasion in your Killswitch Engage shirt, and yes. I don't own a Killswitch Engage shirt because I've not really been a Killswitch Engage fan for a long time. Not to say that I don't like them, but you know, how were you on this new album?
Yeah, so let me start off by saying I don't know that I've ever said this on the show before, but I know we did an episode, and I cannot remember which one it was, where I sort of discussed the different flavors of metalcore that kind of got kicked off in the early 2000s. And those scenes that were happening, I was much more in this camp. I was much more into Killswitch, Shadows Fall, All That Remains, that flavor, way more than the more screamo flavor. With that being said, back in the early 2000s, the first 3 or 4 Killswitch Engage albums, I loved every one of them. And I was a huge fan for a while. Now, over the years, just, you know, my musical taste changed, they sort of changed a little bit. And I've always kept up with them. Every time they release a new record, I always check it out. Usually there's at least a handful of songs that I really enjoy. And that's kind of where I'm at on this one. I don't think this is a bad album by any stretch of the imagination, but I do think it's a little bit uneven. And it's not great all the way through. With that being said, if a band that's predominantly the same lineup has been putting out albums for 20 plus years, the fact that they're still putting out quality music, I'm not expecting a masterpiece. I'm not expecting Alive or Just Breathing or End of Heartache Part 2. Like, I'm not expecting that. So just the fact that they did put out some solid music. And as a matter of fact, one song on here is going to go down as one of my probably top 10 Killswitch songs of all time. Okay. So that alone made me very happy that they released this and that we got new Killswitch.
So, okay. As far as Killswitch Engage goes, you know, I said I've never really been a fan. I've never really been a big fan. I've heard them, you know, throughout, and nothing's ever really caught my attention. You know, I know that there's a reason why, but I've always been more in the Evergreen Terrace camp than Killswitch Engage, and that's fine. You know, Killswitch has always been okay. I do think that if you were to maybe come up with, if you were to have bands perform the literal meaning of their band name, I feel like Killswitch Engage would be a terrible band to go see. But I do feel like Killswitch would be a great band to go see in general, because from the videos I've seen of them live, and I did watch the music videos for this album, by the way.
Good.
I did get that one out of the way. I watched it actually with one of my girls, and she loved them. She thought they were great. Yeah. So
smart girl.
Well, she's the girl that likes heavier music, that, you know, requests us to put on Beartooth and stuff in the car. And
yeah, there you go.
Yeah. So I feel like Killswitch would be a lot of fun to see live, but honestly, I don't think I would ever purchase a ticket to go see them. I feel like I would be more inclined to buy a ticket if they were playing, as an opening act. But that's just me.
Well, so I've actually seen him live 3 times. I was looking back on this. The first time I saw him was in 2006 at Tremont Music Hall. It was a cool, for people around North Carolina. I'm sure that name sounds familiar.
I saw many a show at Tremont.
Same. Saw a lot of shows, played a lot of shows. It was a fun venue because it was sort of split in two. You had like the big room that had bands like Killswitch and a lot of new metal bands. And
it was just if it was an act that could draw a crowd, they would end up in the big room, basically.
Right. And then they had like a smaller room for local shows and stuff. So it was a cool vibe. But I saw them there in 2006 with All That Remains, and that was a really fun show. Then I saw them in 2007 on Warped Tour. They were kind of on one of those middle of the road stages. And then I saw them just a couple years ago, 2021. They were opening for Slipknot. So that was a great show. It was nice to see them on that, great big amphitheater stage.
I'm sure that was a fun show because Slipknot puts on a damn good show. I don't care who you are, Killswitch, I don't care who you are, Slipknot. If I can get words out tonight, which is not a good place to start in doing a podcast, but yeah, Slipknot puts on a fantastic show. If you haven't seen Slipknot live, go see them live and on a big stage, which is really all they do anymore. Because I have a couple of friends that said they saw them on smaller stages at one point, and I cannot imagine what that was.
Oh man, some of the old like Ozfest footage where they were on like the side stage at like noon, 9 dudes literally beating the shit out of each other on stage. You ought to look that up. It's a lot of fun. It's great to see the huge production and the fire and all that, but just what they used to do back in the day was cool too. Yeah. But the neat thing about Killswitch live that you really don't get on the album is the sense of humor that they have, because specifically Adam D. And honestly, you can't talk about Killswitch without Adam D. He is Killswitch Engage.
He's a leading force in it. I mean, when we decided to take this one on, I talked to you about how there's a great video of Adam D. when he got on Price is Right, and he's just it's just quite endearing to watch how excited he is to be there, and his spirit just being involved in it, which makes me like Killswitch more, knowing that he's there and a part of it. Now, I mean, yeah, sure, there's 4 other guys in the band, but Adam D's, he's lead guitar and backing vocal, but he's kind of the personality that's out front.
He is. Whenever you go, like, I distinctly remember when I saw them the first time back in 2006, everybody came out in jeans and black t-shirts, and Adam D came out in booty shorts, a cape, and a Viking helmet. And he would literally like run across the stage, throw his guitar on his back, jump on the ground, start doing push-ups. In between every song, he's yelling the silliest stuff he can think of. And it just adds this extra layer of fun to some pretty aggressive music. Now, Killswitch has always had that extra element of melody that a lot of other bands just could not pull off, because whether it was Jesse Leach or Howard Jones, they always had an incredible lead vocalist. And another thing, I have a very fun, extensive history of Killswitch Engage. And honestly, the history of Killswitch Engage is practically the history of metalcore in general.
Right.
That I am going to go into very deep depths on our second show, Second Breakfast. So if you're listening to this and you want to hear that, and trust me, it's very entertaining and it's very interesting if you like heavy metal, just stay tuned. It'll be popping off pretty soon.
Okay, so we've talked about Adam D. You mentioned Jesse Leach. So let's just roll through the members right quick.
Yeah.
So we got Jesse Leach on lead vocal. We got Adam D., or how do you pronounce his last name? His actual Dutkowitz? I don't know. So we're just going to call him Adam D.
Yeah, it's Duckwitz. I don't know.
So he's
something German, maybe.
Yeah, lead guitar, backing vocal. Then Joel Strotzel. I guess they just got a bunch of German guys for that.
Well, they're all from New England.
Okay, fair. All right, and he's on rhythm guitar, backing vocal. Then on bass we got Mike D.
Antonio.
Yeah, I was just kind of trying to figure out how to word it together. Anyway, and then Justin Foley on drums. Okay, so let's talk about the bass and the drums on this album. There are very few places on this album that I feel like the drums sound like drums. I feel like overall the drums on this album sound like that 80s metal drum that we talked about on the Dio album. They have no decay to them. They sound very flat. There's a few places where they really kind of fill the space, but overall it's like they just kind of are there. And quite a few times on this album, I didn't really feel like what the drums were doing really fit what was going on. And I will point out where that happens. It's really in the later half of the album when things, in my opinion, really start to fall apart. But I feel like the song structure they have on this album is just locked in. It's like almost every song for a good chunk of the album kind of has the same song structure. Like you can almost like predict when the solo's coming. I got bored at a certain point with it.
It's funny you should say that, because I actually, even being a much bigger fan, I actually agree pretty much with everything you just said. And that's why I'm sort of lukewarm on this, because I agree. Now, what's interesting about the production, though, is Adam D is the producer.
Right.
Now, if you don't know, Adam D is not only an incredible guitar player, but he is an incredible engineer. And even if you prefer that other flavor of metalcore, he probably produced some of those albums that you love. He produced I Am Hollywood by He Is Legend. He produced Kiss the Martyr, Bless the Child by Norma Jean. He produced tons and tons of albums back in the early 2000s. His resume is unreal. So the fact that the production on this album is a little bland is kind of shocking to me. Yeah. And I actually saw a couple other places talk about how compressed it is. And that's sort of modern recording right now, but that's some of the best stuff about those first couple Killswitch albums is they managed to be heavy and raw, but when it's big and hooky, it's just flawlessly executed. And in this, it feels a little bit compressed. I think that is the best word for it.
Which actually, so I'm curious if you picked up on this as well, because I'm going to go ahead and tell you, I didn't get a chance to listen to this one through headphones, given all the stuff that I've had going on. Sure. I've just not had the time for it. And so I've put this one on in the car quite a few times, and I've listened to it, through speakers. I've kind of thrown it on in the background a few times, but I really didn't feel like the bass was prevalent on most of this album.
And that's another thing that has always been a staple of their sound is the bass is in there. It's nice and full, and it's got, their riffs have a lot of low end. And yeah, I struggled with that too. I listened to this mostly through computer speakers, but I did take it in the car a couple times. I did listen to it once through headphones, and I didn't feel like it added a whole lot. It sounds a little bit bassier just because of, bassy headphones.
Right.
But yeah, it's a little bit more of a thinner album than they usually put out.
I did go back and I listened to some Killswitch Engage from the past, and it was almost like it just random, at random pick of songs, I was able to feel like those songs were a little bit more well crafted. I feel like maybe this album was rushed.
Okay, so this album actually took a little bit longer to record. I was listening to an interview with Adam D on the Garza podcast, which I don't know if our listeners ever listen to his show or are aware of it, but he's one of the guitar players in Suicide Silence, and he has a podcast where he interviews dudes from every walk of metal, whether it's new metal, extreme metal, metalcore, whatever. And he was interviewing Adam, and they said that, because of COVID, this album just took a little bit longer to get around to, basically. And he said that they all live in different parts of the country now, and so there was a lot of like sending demos to each other back and forth. Right. But they did actually get in a room and jam these songs together and wrote a lot together as well. So it's the way they want them to sound, which is interesting because I feel like I don't know. It's hard to explain because I actually agree with something you said a few minutes ago about the back half of the CD or album. It's not a CD. Yeah. Nobody has CDs anymore.
I have CDs, but
this is a short record. Their albums are usually in the 12 to 13 range. This is only 10 songs, and for me, about 6 songs in, maybe 7, and then it kind of falls apart a little bit on the last couple songs. And it's partial. It's a couple of things, but one of the things that I struggled with was I don't want them to put the same album out. I don't want this to sound exactly like Alive or Just Breathing or As Daylight Dies. Like, I don't want it to sound the exact same.
Yeah.
But they start doing some stuff on the last couple songs that are like, that's not what I come to Killswitch for. Like, Adam has all these side projects where he does all kinds of crazy extreme metal. I just found out this one band called Serpentine. Oh God, what's it called? I don't remember now, but it's him and the lead singer from Cannibal Corpse. And it's brutal, but dude from Cannibal Corpse is actually singing some clean vocal on it, and it sounds really good. And I really enjoyed a lot of that, but that's not Killswitch Engage. Like, when I hear Killswitch Engage, I want the chuggy rhythms, those cool little guitar harmonies, and those big bright choruses. And there's a couple songs near the back of this that, like, they sound like a different band, and it doesn't work for me.
Yeah, and I've got a few things to say about those in the latter half of this album, but it just it felt like, the beginning of this album was the songs that they jammed out a little bit more and kind of honed a little bit more, and then it was like I would say it was after 5, so it was like, literally the last half of this album just kind of felt like it was pieced together as best they could, and it's like they were just putting in effort, but sometimes what was happening, effort wasn't needed by certain members.
Ask you this doesn't necessarily pertain to this record. It sort of does, but just in general, Jesse or Howard?
I don't know. I mean,
if you're not as big of a fan and listen to their stuff as much, you might not have strong of an opinion.
Yeah, so I'm going to go with I don't have a strong opinion because I'm not a huge fan of Killswitch Engage.
Okay.
I think Howard might be the reason why I like Evergreen Terrace more.
Is he the lead singer of Evergreen Terrace?
I'm about 95% sure. Now you got me questioning myself.
I never knew that. If that's true, that's interesting. That's not part of the Killswitch history that I will be delving into, but if you are correct, I will amend that.
What band is it that I'm thinking of then?
He's been in several, but I want to cut some of this out, but I'm going to have to leave some of it in so they know you're an idiot.
Okay, Killswitch Engage, and then Blood Has Been Shed. And so I guess I've always kind of mixed it up to where Howard Jones, I always felt like was more, I've always felt like Howard Jones was Evergreen Terrace, but so yeah, I'm going to go Howard Jones.
Okay.
I just like Howard Jones's voice more.
Yeah, and so it's really funny because I was thinking about this before we recorded. If you asked me to pick my 2 favorite Killswitch albums, I would have to go with Alive or Just Breathing. That one's my favorite, and that's Jesse. And then my second favorite is the one that came right after that, End of Heartache, which was the first with Howard.
Right.
And if I had to pick, I love them both. I think both of them have a lot of strengths, very few weaknesses. And if I had to pick one, though, I would give it to Jesse because I like his lyrics more. And I feel, even though Howard has a ton of power, there's something raw in Jesse's vocals and his lyrics. And there's also this struggle with his spirituality that I kind of connect to a little bit more than some of the stuff Howard sings about.
Right.
So I give it to Jesse. And again, like I said, in large part due to Jesse, there is a song on this album that, like, I literally cried the first time I heard it and saw the video. I cried.
I also cried listening to this, but that's because my kidney stone was hurting.
Yeah, this is a good in pain kind of album, I think.
You could say I listened to this album while stoned.
Oh God. Okay, we got to get into this now.
All right, so track 1, Abandon Us.
You turn your back
sorry, before we go too much further, I did something on this album that I thought was kind of an interesting thing. I was just curious about it. So I went into ChatGPT and did, I asked for AI full breakdown of every track on this album.
Oh, no.
And so the AI description of this album is Killswitch Engage's ninth studio album, This Consequence, released February 21st, 2025, presents a collection of tracks that blend together their signature metalcore sound with evolved musical elements. Here's a track-by-track breakdown highlighting the nuances of each song. So, with that, Abandon Us said, opening with intense riffs, this track delves into themes of emotional betrayal with both personal and political. I was going to say, like, the AI said with both personal and political, and the grammar of that doesn't work right. Anyway, go on.
Please tell me you're not going to read me the ChatGPT description of every song.
I have each of them, and I was planning on it.
God almighty. Okay, well, I'll give you the non-AI, and let's see, what's the correct verbiage here?
Starts at 11.
I'm not artificial and I'm not intelligent. So what's the opposite of both?
You're a man.
Naturally, stupidity.
You're a man.
Oh, barely. So when this song started, I had heard the couple of singles they released before they dropped the album. And then this song started and I was like, this might be an all-timer because I love the singles and this is nasty. This is a great song.
Oh, it starts like it's out to hurt you.
I love that opening riff. It's one of those cool riffs where it's got an odd count to it, like if you're counting sort of the chugs of the rhythm hand, but it never gets so screwy that you can't just nod your head to it. Like it's not like a weird Tool thing or something where you have to like count the kick drum. It's just the actual riff is kind of like off kilter, which I love that. It
was a fun riff on this one, but I will say the intro goes a bit too long on this opening track. It's like, it was good, but it was almost like, okay, we could move it along now, because I mean it took 29 seconds to just get to something, and it's like you come in with such power and force and then you just kind of leave it in that space for almost too long. It almost felt like that power and force just didn't hold as much.
I dig it. I don't think it goes on too long at all. Now, one thing I did want to mention before was I think that there's two things about Killswitch that give them their signature sound, and that's the big bright hooky choruses, because a lot of heavy metal bands either can't do that or are scared to do that. And then the second one that I think gets overlooked, I call it the kill switch chord. Now, it's not always a chord. Sometimes it's a couple of notes, but this song has a little bit of that in there. And if you're listening for it, I think you'll start to notice it as you listen to more songs. But that opening riff is very heavy. And then when the verse riff kicks in, the first time I clocked the kill switch chord is at 33 seconds. It's not a chord. It's a quick little na-na-na-na-na-na, like little run of notes. Right. But they're not dissonant. They're not aggressive sounding. They sound uplifting, which is, again, not a common thing in heavy metal. And that's another, that's that brightness that Killswitch brings that other bands in this genre don't do.
No, I know what you're talking about. So on the 311 Transistor, we talked about how there was that familiar tone throughout the album. Mm-hmm. And I will say that, Killswitch does have that familiar, lead line, I guess you could put it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it just kind of runs throughout their entire catalog to where it's just familiar. And it's almost like that's the thread that connects each album, know. And, whether I don't feel like lyrically and definitely not sonically, because I don't feel like they filled the same sonic space with this album as they have in the past. But I understand what you mean by that. But The choruses, I do really like that bright, clean chorus on this track.
The chorus on this song is stellar.
Yeah. I will say that the solo that starts at 113, it feels too early for the solo. Like, it's almost like, okay, so this track is 3 minutes, 38 seconds long. And it's like they put everything up front. Now, I will say I did listen to this first track in headphones. I think I listened to like 3 of the songs through headphones because I was trying to fit it in and I just couldn't. But I will say that solo was fun in headphones. And going back to actually the beginning, so the single guitar comes in the left in headphones. It's like, it's kind of there in the right, but it's like more in the left side. And it's just kind of a fun thing to like throw in. And that's where those chords you were talking about were. And that was like, it was like, oh, we're okay. Killswitch is here. Okay, cool. It's like they came in and they were like, brr, and then like Killswitch entered my head, and it was like, okay, this is fun, because like this first track was a really good time, and I will say that this is a damn good opening track because this set me up for the first half of this album.
Yeah, this is probably my second favorite song on the album. I think this is a great opener. I actually like that there's like these little short solos and guitar noodles throughout the whole song.
Yep.
But the one that starts at 2:39 that has that twin harmony guitar line. That kicks ass. I love that part. That's so good. And then that kind of guitar noodle sort of takes the song out as well. So I think this is a great opening track. Like if you've never heard Killswitch Engage before and you put this album on and this is what you heard, you got a great example of everything Killswitch does and does very, very well.
Okay, so before we jump to, what was the timestamp that you put on that?
2:39.
2:39. Okay, so before we get to that, I do like the lead up to the bridge that starts at 2:02. And it's a great little lead up to it. Actually, I feel like a lot of their lead up to bridges is great. I feel like that's probably the strongest part of this entire album is like that section of each song. The bridge is fine. It's not great, but that's where I started going, is my bass off? Can't you see? What's happening here? And that's where I started really picking up on that. But then I do like that solo on the other side of the bridge, but I don't like how it fades out. I wish it had come to a close. I kind of feel like a fade out is a cheap move on a lot of bands' albums, especially a metal band, where it's like they kind of just fade it out, where it's like they know it's a strong enough song to where live they could play it longer and put more into it, but on the album they're just going to fade it out because we're trying to write an album here.
I don't mind the fade out. I'm cool with it either way.
All right, so let's move on to track 2, Discordant Nation. So this one comes in big with a scream. Just right off the top. Just big scream.
That gnarly opening riff too. This song, I love the way this song just jumps out at you.
Yeah, no, it's as far as intros go, this one, like, okay, so far, track 1, it came to hurt me. Track 2 is there to hurt me more. I mean, it's
track 1 knocked you down, and then this one is like stepping on your head.
Right, exactly. But it's stepping on my head with big boots, and
very big boots. Yes,
and all that's fine. Okay, so I do love the riff in this song. I think the riff is great, but what I don't like in this song was that double bass. The double bass drums. It's just like it's okay. I said. I didn't.
No, wait. Did you say or did AI say?
No, I said it. I haven't read the AI for this because you made it clear that you weren't wanting me to read off the AI stuff, and I've stopped the AI stuff. But
I feel like we should respect our listeners and not drag this out for 3 hours.
All right, that's fine. I mean, it's only a 35-minute album, so let's go for
because if you add an AI, opinion on every song, it's like having 3 people.
Every song, like it's 2 sentences for AI.
I don't care if you read it; you can read it.
Okay, but the double bass drumming on this song drove me nuts because I didn't dislike it, but I didn't like it either because it felt like it's almost like he was having trouble holding it for a long time. And that's where, like, he would hold it long enough to stop and then go again and then stop. And, like, it just didn't feel like it was a complete section at any point to me.
It is very odd that they have Jesse do the big, clean hook vocally, but then the drums are doing that almost like black metal drum beat. Again, Killswitch has always had little nuggets of black metal and death metal, and that's fine. That's not why I come to Killswitch Engage. That's if I wanted to hear those things, I'd listen to those styled bands. So, yeah, I like it because of the just sort of the juxtaposition of the bright, clean, simple vocal with that crazy, chaotic drum beat. I like it better here. Obviously, this style drum comes back a little later, and I'm not as into it on those songs. So here I kind of like it, though. It's
fine, but I feel like a consistent theme throughout this album is the music isn't going to match what's happening vocally, especially lyrically in a couple of tracks. And which I do want to say, I do appreciate the more, I don't want to say upbeat, but uplifting lyrics within this album.
Yes, absolutely.
I do appreciate that, but maybe the Beartooth is rubbing off on the scene.
Well, again, and that's why I do like Howard. I think Howard is a great singer and wrote great lyrics too. But I connect with Jesse's lyrics better.
No,
I really do.
That's fine.
I think he's a great writer.
All right, so the solo feels less like a solo at 1:30 and more like leftover rhythm guitar from another song.
A little bit. This song is more riff based, less lead based.
Right. So I really like 213, and I really wish they had elongated that part and used it for the solo. Guitar's doing something cool. I really like what's happening musically there. I really wish they had kind of delved into that part deeper and like kind of elongated that part and kind of, fleshed it out a little bit more.
Yeah, this is a weird one for me because there's parts of it that I like. It's one of those songs that, like, when it's on, I'm kind of along for the ride. But when it's over, I'm not like, oh, God, I got to go back and hear that again, you know?
Right. And I will say that there's probably maybe one song on this album that I wanted to listen to a second time. I had a hard time actually playing this one back to back. I had to palate cleanse it with next week's album. And, fine.
Yeah.
This isn't Killswitch's strongest outing. I'm just going to...
No, and I think, put it this way. I have seen bands, and I can even attest to my boys in 311 kind of did this to me. You got to hype up your new album. You got to, try to get people interested to check it out. But if you overpromise and underdeliver, that almost hurts it more.
Right.
And because that's kind of what 311 did on their newest album, Full Bloom. Nick went around telling everybody it was 311 on steroids. And whenever he elaborated, he would say the heavy stuff's heavier, the melodic stuff's more melodic. It's us at our best and blah, blah, blah. And then when I got the 10-song, pretty weak ass album, I was like, this is fine. This is like middle of the road 311. Like, I mean, there's just like this. There's 2 or 3 songs that I really enjoyed and I'm glad to have them. But as a whole album, it's not their best.
Right. All right. So let's talk about track 3, Aftermath.
Intro. Oh, just absolutely stunning guitar at the beginning of this song.
So what I said for the intro is something from an epic metal song that doesn't match the rest of the song.
No. That intro is from Mere de Gnomes by A Perfect Circle. That is like, that guitar tone just immediately took me back to that album. But you're right, when the song actually kicks in, it sounds like a completely different song.
Yeah, and I really enjoyed the intro on this one, and I was disappointed when it switched to the regular song, or to the real song. I mean, I thought I had a fun chorus, but I was kind of left disappointed in the rest of the song because I enjoyed the intro so much.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. I don't love the verses. The verses are fine. I like the chorus a lot.
Yeah.
I actually like the second verse better than the first.
Yes,
because
I'll
it's
agree.
a little choppier. And then that cool, like, choppy guitar kind of leads into the bridge at 158. I like all that. It's just not great. Like, that intro is so good and pretty that the rest of the song just never gets back up there for me.
And in hindsight, I kind of feel like, 1 and 2 were great. Track 3 set us up for what this album's going to be, where it's, the beginning of this album is going to be really good, but then the back half is not going to be as great, but we're going to have fun choruses, there's going to be these bright spots throughout, but I would actually say Aftermath is a better opener for this album because I actually feel like it sets us up for what this album is more.
Yeah, and it has a very memorable intro for sure.
Oh yeah. I think the intro on this song is probably my favorite spot of this entire album.
It's one of my favorites for sure. Now, to your point, I think you're right as far as it's setting you up for stuff coming later because, hey, you've been a band for 20 years. You're putting out your 9th album. You want to experiment. You want to try new things, of course. But I'm not saying every time they try something new, it doesn't work. But like, for example, in the bridge here, Jesse does this screaming vocal, like where he's saying, I'd give my life. I'd give my life. Where it's like a different kind of scream than he normally does.
Yeah.
And I've never really heard him scream like that before. And it felt off. It didn't necessarily sound bad, but it didn't sound like Jesse Leach screaming, I'd give my life. Like, in my head, I know what that sounds like, and that ain't it, Okay,
so the note that I put on it is, I like that scream, but I don't want to hear it again.
Yeah. Now, what I will say, though, is we get our first, he might have done some backing vocals, but our first little taste of lead vocal from Adam D around 256, that's him singing there. I didn't realize that was him singing. He is credited as backing vocal on this album. So yeah, and he actually does some lead vocal. I say lead, but on his own singing. My biggest disappointment, though, and I've talked about this on other songs, is I wish bands also knew the best part of their songs the way I do. I really, 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 really wish this song would have gone out
the way it came in.
Yes, exactly. And I hate that it didn't.
Yeah. So speaking of going out, let's go out to track 4, Forever Aligned.
And not to jump straight to the end of this song, but this song does sort of end with like real pretty clean guitar that, so. Anyway, but yeah, this was the first single. I think this was the one that they. I believe this is the one I saw a video for.
Yes, there's a video for this. I watched it, and honestly, the videos were fine. None of them really jumped out to me as something memorable. It's almost like I could have skipped watching the videos and been okay.
This is the one that's like a collection of them, like on the road, right? I
believe so.
Yeah. So I've mentioned this on other episodes, the band DVDs with all the behind the scenes stuff. So my history of Killswitch that I'm going to do for Second Breakfast came from my home video that I have of Killswitch Engage from around 2000, probably 7 or 8 or something like that. And it has a full concert, but it also has this documentary called From the Bedroom to the Basement about them, like all their history and whatever. And so that's part of how I fell in love with these guys, was seeing that behind the scenes stuff and their personalities. So it was cool to see that, like, even in 2025, they still obviously love each other and they still love what they do.
No, and that's good that you have that, because I mean, I don't really know any band that's been around for 20 plus years and has most of the same members, which they have most of the same lineup.
Yeah.
And they still like each other. You know, I could tell you, I worked at the airport, years ago, and Aerosmith actually came into the airport, and Joe Perry flies on a different plane. He does not fly with the rest of the band because they don't like each other. So, I mean, they act happy in front of people, but, it's just all for show.
Yeah, and I mean, every band, you've got personalities, and you're going to click with some people and not other people. I've been in plenty of bands that, you have 4 or 5 members. These 2 or 3 are really good buddies. These couple are really good buddies, and we play good music together, and we go our separate ways. And,
it's just a job, basically.
Yeah.
So
back to this actual song. That intro, that guitar is just nasty. Like, it is so dissonant and ugly. I like it, but I prefer when it kind of switches up around the 27-second mark. That guitar I like better.
Okay, so I do like that snare opening. I do think the snare is actually probably the best part of the drums on this album, because the snare has an actual tone to it, has a sound to it, and I like it. Yeah. I do like the snare on this entire album. But as far as the chugs, they're fine chugs. Like, I like them, but to be honest with you, we're at track 4, and we've kind of heard the same chugs. I kind of feel like this is where I started going, okay, they've got the song structure locked in. This is what it's going to be. And okay, fine. But at the same time, it's chugs that I am starting to find kind of boring. There's some, familiar riffs, great. And then Jesse's vocals that go along with it. And it's kind of like, that's just kind of their bread and butter, and they're going to stick to it. And that's fine. But you're giving us an album of recycled sounds at this point, because I was able to go back and find these same things throughout Killswitch's catalog, where I've kind of just jumped around and randomly picked songs. Yes, those other songs had the bass more prevalent in them, which I was thankful for, but I don't know. This one, there was enough of the guitar change in the chorus, but I didn't really like this one up until the bridge.
Yeah, so this one I actually kind of disagree with you as far as the song structure goes, because what's neat about this one is when it goes to the chorus, you get the big vocal, but you don't get that big Killswitch chord. It's not there. It just goes into the chorus. The big Killswitch like uplift doesn't come until that bridge, which I clocked at 153. And that's the part. So instead of just doing the blast chuggy verse into a big hooky chorus, the chorus is also kind of chuggy. And then the bridge is where you get the big lift. So I kind of like that they sort of mix it up here, but you're right. I mean, that is the Killswitch formula. And it's sort of one of those things, like we're saying, it's like we don't want to steer too clear of it because then you're getting into stuff that we don't come to Killswitch for. But if you do it the same every single time, we're going to get bored. That's a tough spot to be in. You know, when you're known for a particular thing, i.e., those huge choruses, those like bright guitar chords mixed in, it does make it tricky. I also like the, so like I said, the big chorus, the big bridge, all of that. And then I love that they do the chorus halftime there at the end. Because I'm a sucker for the halftime, you know.
I know.
And I love that, because that's another thing that Killswitch used to do a lot more in the early 2000s on those first couple records. They would never, ever, ever be confused with nu metal, ever. Right. But the definition of metalcore is mixing heavy metal and hardcore. And back in those days, that hardcore groove, hardcore was very close to groove metal. And a lot of old Killswitch had a lot more of that in it. So I like that they did go to halftime here. And like I already said, love that beautiful guitar outro. I think that's real sweet sounding.
We do get an overall change in tone there at the end with that, but... Okay.
I was trying not to choke the entire time you were choking.
Okay, so for listeners, you have to know, while Monster was just having a monologue, I was having a coughing fit, and then I go into a talking point, and then he has a coughing fit. We're barely hanging on these today. You know,
we're going to power through. We're halfway there.
Starting
to lose my voice.
We really should have had a more balanced breakfast.
Shut up.
All right, track 5, I Believe. Okay, so this was another single they released, and this was one of the other videos. I think they put out 3 videos, 3 singles for this album, and I watched all of them. Another fine video. You know, I can't tell you what it was, but I do know I watched it. I can tell you that.
Let me walk you through me seeing this music video.
All right. Walk me.
A lot of times in the Monster House, which is a good movie, by the way, once the girls go to bed, I'll hang out, play some video games, watch some YouTube, and sometimes I'll kind of go down a music video rabbit hole. And so I was clicking around on YouTube, and I saw that Killswitch had just released a new video, and it was called I Believe. And so I clicked it, and the first shot of the music video is this cabin and the camera swooping towards the cabin. And I thought, they're going to do an Evil Dead thing. Okay, this is cool. And then about a minute into it, between the lyrics and the visuals, I was in tears, because this song, all of this, it just really hit me hard. And for me, this is a top 10 Killswitch Engage song. I absolutely adore this song.
Okay, so I also really enjoyed this song. In fact, I think this is probably the best song off the album. So
I agree.
Okay, and I'm going to also say that this is the highest point of the album. It's all downhill from here. I'm just going to, spoiler alert, it's all down from here.
There's a couple more songs that I enjoy before it really kind of hits a wall for me. But this is, for me, definitely the highlight of the album.
I do like the opening guitar. And then the drums go back to sounding like everything we heard before. And it just has that same dead tone to it. I just have a hard time with the drums on this album overall. So everything outside of the drums on this track, I actually really like. I thought we got his best vocals here.
Yeah, his vocals and the lyrics, I think, are both stunning.
So while I don't think his vocals were bad at all, but I thought it was a nice change up in vocals at 135. It was almost like when I was needing a change in vocals, we got it at 135. And it's almost like this was a carefully crafted song where it was like they recognized when they needed to change something because they did. And it was at 135 where not only the vocals changed, but you also got a tone change in the guitar. You got these little things, and I really appreciated that.
Yeah, I like the chorus on this one a lot because you have Jesse with the great big I believe. But then you have Adam D singing the, there is hope for better days in, the other lines. Right. Kind of like backing him up. But it's just nice to hear the two different voices.
Yeah, it was nice to hear them kind of play off of each other. And I feel like they worked well together.
And then as the song progresses, you've got that halftime, where he says, come what may. And, the drums, like I said, it goes to halftime and it's just real big and powerful. And then there's that little small spot where it gets really, really soft right before it kicks back in. Yeah, I think he yells, keep the faith real loud. And nothing will stand in my way. And then it just jumps back in for the last section of the song.
Okay, so
super well crafted song, like you said.
So I'd said before that I think probably the best part of each of these songs is the lead into the bridge, and I feel like this was probably the strongest one that started at 2:20. And lasted for I think it was like 5 seconds, but it was a good solid section, and then the bridge I thought was really strong, and then that soft part that I think you're talking about is the stretch between 304 and 318. And then it goes real big at the end. And my only criticism of that is I don't feel like we needed it as much as we got at the end. I feel like they should have come back for like one big thing and then closed it out, because the song is 354, and we got from 318 to 354 to fill with that big sound again. I don't feel like they needed to do it as much as they did there, but also didn't mind it.
Yeah, it's one of those things where especially the first time I heard it, it was like, I don't want it to end. Like, yes, keep playing this part. I need to hear this part over and over, Now, you don't want me to go into my history of Killswitch. You want me to save it for another show. I respect that. But I'm going to go on a tangent here. I have to tell somebody, and you're the one sitting here. So buckle up.
I'm going to leave.
This is Monsters' one detour from this album real quick. So when I heard this song, and I've been listening to Jesse Leach's lyrics for a very long time, and I know that he grew up Christian and his relationship with Christ and God and all of that is well documented in a lot of lyrics. But I started thinking, I was like, okay, this day and age, things aren't as rigid as they used to be. Is Killswitch Engage considered a Christian band? And of course not. I never thought they were. However, what is very interesting, and I did not know this, Jesse and Adam D have a side project with another guy named Dan Glusak, I think is how you say it, on drums, called Times of Grace. Now, I wouldn't call this a Christian band either, but it would be very easy to make that assumption based on lyrical content and imagery and so on.
They put out band.
Well, it's very, put it this way. If Killswitch is Jesse struggling with his relationship with God, Times of Grace is him a little bit more comfortable with it, I guess you could say. I listened to the first album. They've got 2 albums. One came out in 2011, and it was just Jesse and Adam D. Adam D played everything, and then Jesse sang. And it's really heavy. It's not all that dissimilar to Killswitch. But they released an album in 2021 called Songs of Loss and Separation. I would highly recommend checking that out. It's kind of bluesy. The songs are a lot slower, and Jesse's lyrics are just gorgeous. And there's some really good big vocals between both Adam and Jesse singing together. It's really different. Like if you like Jesse's voice, but you'd like to hear something a little bit different, check it out. Times of Grace is the name of the band. I don't love it, but I really do like it, and it's definitely interesting.
Okay. No, because I do like Jesse's voice, but I like Jesse's clean voice better.
And there is, especially on the new 2021 album, there's very little screaming.
Okay. All right, that's fine. All right, so let's talk about track 6, Where It Does. So I think it's funny that we just go from, I believe, this like kind of uplifting song to Where It Does. But you know what else?
Yeah.
You know what else died for me here?
What's that?
The rest of the album. The rest of the album. Because I hate the drums in this intro. I like just about everything else going on, but I hate the drums in this intro.
This one had a very, I don't want to say old school metal feel, but this sounds like
thrash metal feel.
Yeah, like this sounds like it could have been the intro to a Megadeth song more than a Killswitch song.
And that's fine if this is where they need to get out their thrash metal feelings. You know, if that's what they want to do, that's fine. It's a good riff in the song, but it's just over and over and over. I get tired of it. I do.
Well, it does kind of go on for a minute, but then it kind of kicks in around 55 seconds. This is where it dies. It gets a little more brutal there because that opening stuff has that like higher tinny register because you've got like the bell cymbal kind of tone and the guitar riff itself is in a higher octave. But then at 55 seconds, it gets a little bit more, Killswitch Engage.
You know what would have helped that high-end tinny sound?
What?
Some bass.
Yeah. I didn't read a bunch of reviews, but I did look, and I feel like most of the reviews I saw were kind of where we are. There's a lot of great stuff, but there's also a lot of meh stuff.
Yeah.
And that production is a common thing, which again, if you look at Adam D's resume, some of the best sounding albums, like I'm sorry, if you like He Is Legend, great. I personally think they're great. I Am Hollywood is such a great sounding album. Where is that? Why does this not sound like that?
I love I Am Hollywood and Suck Out the Poison. I think those two albums are fantastic. Love them. But yeah, I don't know where that production went on this entire album. I kind of feel like this was maybe Adam D kind of was doing the production of this album kind of secondary to trying to write this album, but then also do some other projects. And the production on this album just kind of suffered.
He was doing other projects at the same time. That is true. Also, a lot of these metal guys, we talk about Metallica a lot, and, we talk about Injustice for All.
You talk about Metallica a lot.
Now, I talk about them for us, both of us to enjoy.
I didn't realize it was a gift, but okay.
Well, hey, there's a Metallica album coming down the pipe, so get ready.
As long as it's not that Lou Reed bullshit.
It's not. That doesn't exist as far as I'm concerned.
All right.
Because you know why?
Why?
Bob Dylan sucks.
Bob Dylan sucks.
But Lou Reed really sucks.
Lou Reed really sucks.
All right.
No, so what I'm trying to say, though, is a lot of times, we talk about Injustice for All. There's no bass. They just took the bass out.
Yeah.
There's a certain group of metalheads that like that thin guitar sound. And I, for one, don't. I, for one, think the guitar tone on the Black Album is stellar. I want a big, juicy low end mixed into the guitars.
You do like a juicy low end.
Why do you think we're friends? No. So I really do agree that I think the production is just a little bit too thin. Yeah. That's ultimately what hurts a lot of the songs from sounding as big and massive as a lot of classic Killswitch.
Okay, so I do think there's a fun solo at 212.
Yeah, that's a cool part. I like that part too.
Yeah. But outside of that, I got nothing else to say about where it does.
Really cool dive bomb on the guitar strings right there.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. All right, so track 7, Collusion. So this was another solo they put out, and of course a video accompanying it. And I think that this was probably the first of the videos I watched, because I did sit down and I watched them all together. And this kind of set the stage for the other ones. And it was like, okay, well, and I think I actually watched the videos before I really listened to this one with intention. And I was kind of leery going into it just because, you know, I kind of felt like this was along the lines of so many other metalcore bands that we have heard.
Yes.
That double bass, deep growls, it just felt very bland to me.
I thought the same thing. This was actually the third video. So this one came out like right before they dropped the album. And
yeah, February 24th. So
yeah. So I was a little bit almost like disappointed, because I thought again, Forever Aligned is cool. I thought it was really solid. I Believe brought me to tears. And so then this one came out and I was like, this sounds like every other metalcore band I've ever heard. Like, this doesn't sound like the band that created it. This sounds like a band trying to jump on it. It was kind of sad. I was like, come on, guys, y'all are better than this.
Okay.
And the video has this like weird Terminator thing going on.
Yeah.
It's obviously pretty low budget. And, you know, when you got bands like Bad Omens and Sleep Token putting out mini movies, and then you guys come out with this, it's like, oh, don't love it. Don't love it.
Yeah, it wasn't the Terminator, it was the Eliminator. It was basically the Kmart version of Terminator. Yeah.
I like that.
So, okay, this is where the fatigue really set in. And it was like, okay, everything's running together. And I know that this wasn't one of the strongest tracks on the album, but at this point, I'm kind of just like, all right, it's fine. You know, the echo was a nice change on this one. The echo on the lyrics, like, it was just like kind of, I want to say kind of random words, but it was probably a little bit more strategic than random, but, you know, it was fine. It was nice change, but I didn't really need it.
Yeah, the only part that really stuck out to me is that like real nasty scream and riff that kick in at about 156.
Yeah, same note.
But then like after that, the way Jesse's screaming, I don't love that. So it sort of like draws me in with this big moment, but then I don't like much before or after it. So
right. So okay, let's move on and talk about track 8, The Fall of Us.
Okay, so you said Collusion. Well, actually, you said Where It Dies is when you kind of were going down.
Right.
I was still kind of okay. These next two songs, I don't care if I ever hear them again, honestly.
No, that's fine. I kind of feel the same way. But what I will say for The Fall of Us, big scream to open it up. And that set my expectations at a certain place that I think kind of that was let down, because earlier in the album, we got a big screen to open the song, and then we got a good song behind it. But here, I don't feel like the music fit anything in the chorus at all. I definitely feel like the music the drums especially should have just calmed down on this one. I don't feel like the drums needed to be as busy as they were, and that could have improved this entire song. I feel like what the guitar was doing was fine. I guess what the bass was doing was okay, but I couldn't hear it, so I don't know. I can't confirm. But yeah, those drums just need to calm down.
Yeah. Again, like I said, Killswitch has always had little moments of black metal and death metal strewn in. Totally cool with that. I don't mind it a little bit. But this is just a black metal, death metal song. And yeah, it's kind of got some Killswitch moments with like some big clean vocals here or there. But the beat and some of the guitar riffs, it's just, I don't know how else to describe it other than it just sounds mean. Like, and Killswitch isn't a mean band to me. Like when I listen to Killswitch, I think of positivity and love and
which goes against the name of their band, but you know.
No, I mean, but even like I Believe, I mean, we're almost into praise and worship territory. So when you give me a song like this isn't what I come to Killswitch Engage for. And if they had more songs like this, I would not have been as into them growing up.
Okay, so I will say that I do like what it does musically at 111. But then after that part, it goes right back into what it was doing. And then it's like it kind of messes up things up until about halfway through the chorus, the second chorus. Mm-hmm. And then it becomes better until the bridge. And then it gives me an interesting bridge.
Yeah.
But then at like 250 on, I felt like was them just trying to find the end because you just get so many different things happening. And I feel like from that point on, it just feels like they're throwing things against the wall and seeing what sticks.
Yeah, I was going to say the little spooky acoustic guitar part that starts around 225. That's my favorite part of the song because it's neat. Like it just has the guitar has a cool tone to it. Yeah. Kind of reminded me of the little acoustic moments on that Living Sacrifice album we did.
Yeah.
I like that tone and that feel. But yeah, then you're right. It's like just some more stuff happens and then the song ends. It doesn't, I don't know. There's this one. I don't like this one. It makes me feel uncomfortable.
Speaking of feeling uncomfortable, let's talk about track 9, Broken Glass.
And exactly the same thing. This one, let me read you my notes, okay?
I was going to read you my notes.
Let me go first. I guarantee this is somebody's all-time favorite Killswitch Engage song, but I just don't like it very much.
Okay, so my first note here is I want to like the intro, but I just can't. You speak I just can't like it. And I think a big part of it is because I'm just getting tired of his vocals at this point. And the thing is that I like Jesse Leach's clean vocals, but I'm getting tired of his harsh vocals. We've listened to plenty of bands that have harsh vocals throughout the entire album, like, you know, Living Sacrifice that you just mentioned was a great example. Yep. Harsh vocals everywhere. I don't think there was a clean vocal on that one. And I was good with it. But it's just, it's almost like it's just starting to rub me the wrong way. And I think it's because musically things aren't doing the right thing here. You know, the double bass feels like it's there because they feel like it should be. Not because it's the right thing to put there, but it's almost like they're just going, you know what? This song needs double bass because that's what we do. And I don't need it.
Yeah, but it doesn't need it like at all because the guitar is just down. It's so just, I don't know. Like again, with better production, maybe it does sound huge and epic, but it doesn't. It sounds flat and simplistic. And these guys are shredders and incredible musicians. This sounds, I don't know, like this sounds bad. Like it really, put it this way. You put out a 10-track album. If you're going to give us 10 songs, clocking in between 30 and 35 minutes, I expect all 10 songs to be bangers.
Yeah.
And if this is a B-side at best, I don't like this song.
Okay.
Track 8 and track 9 are just both not for me.
But there is something that happens on this song that doesn't happen anywhere else in the album. We hear the bass real quick. Real
kind of.
Yeah. It's almost like the bass just filled in some blank space and that was it. But it's not like it, lifted things up at all. It didn't give it any backbone by any means, because this one just felt disjointed to me overall.
The way you said that, you alluded to it. There's no lift.
Yeah.
There's nothing bright. It's very dour. And again, that's fine if you're feeling that way and that's the song you guys write, but that's not my Killswitch Engage. That's not the flavor of Killswitch Engage that makes me happy and want to listen to more.
Okay, so I really like the clean vocal on this song. And I really feel like this song could have been better if that was the main vocal instead of the harsh vocal all through this one. I really feel like if Jesse had chosen to kind of swap that, I feel like that would have really lifted the song to a different level, and it actually would have been a bright spot in the last half of this album.
His vocals aren't the problem for me.
I'm not saying that would have fixed the entire thing, but I feel like it would have been a good start.
Yeah, I mean, it couldn't have. I mean, just throw it back to the boys. Let's rework it a little bit. Maybe there's a song in there somewhere, but I don't know, man. Something about those weird blast beats with that just jing, 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 jing guitar just doesn't sound good at all to my ears.
Mine either. So, all right, let's round the album out with track 10, Requiem. So at this point, this is not an album I ever want to listen to again. I would pick random tracks off of this, but I don't want to listen to this in full after this. I mean, this isn't like the level of hatred that we had with Kings of Leon, because nothing is. Yeah.
Nothing ever will be.
But, this is not a metal album that I would put on to listen to in the background, in the foreground, whatever, because at this point, in the back half of this album, I need the drummer to take a backseat and quit striving to be the front man, because I felt like that's what he was really starting to do in the last part of this album. And I just really didn't like it, especially since I don't like the drum sound on this album.
Yeah, this is one of those songs I even wrote in my notes. I said, this whole song is hard for me to explain, because on the one hand, it's very much a Killswitch Engage song. It checks a lot of the boxes, but it doesn't check them confidently. Does it have a clean, catchy chorus? Yeah. Does it have some cool riffs? Yeah. But it doesn't have a really cool riff, and it doesn't have a really catchy chorus. So it's just sort of middle of the road. Right. Yeah. So again, we've talked about this on other albums. If this is the first Killswitch Engage song you hear, you might really think this is great, and that's awesome. But if you've heard some of these other albums and you've seen some of these other videos and stuff, this just ain't it, this is fine. If this is your favorite Killswitch song, I'm not mad at you for it. But for me, there's just so much better in that catalog. And it doesn't do anything really good to make it a closer. You know what I mean?
It doesn't do anything wrong, but it just also doesn't do much right.
Yeah, if I had to pick a really cool moment, there's a lot of, little riffs and leads throughout the song, like on some of the other ones. But I do love the twin guitar harmonies that start at 212.
I think this was the best solo on this entire album because it had a really cool, I want to say almost like an 80s power metal solo type of feel to it. And I just thought it was a good solo, which made me feel like this song got better as it went along. But I feel like it was kind of almost like a false glazing that was put over this, that solo made me like the song better as it went on.
Yeah, I even put, that solo kind of makes the song worth listening to.
Yeah.
But I do have a funny sounds like, hey, I already brought up Tremont Music Hall, so why don't we just keep it local? There's a band that I love that at some point perhaps we should do an album. Maybe not. I don't know. But Swift, they were kind of the local band around here that never broke. They had opportunity, but they were a little weird, and it doesn't matter. Yeah. But they had a song called Release the Wolves. That had a very similar rhythm to it as this song does. And it was one of those things where this song kicked on with that rhythm, and I was like, I'd rather be listening to Swift right now. It had a lot better drum sound because Jamie King was playing drums for Swift, so yeah, you got that for you. But no, I don't hate this song. I think it's fine. It's a 5 out of 10 middle of the road Killswitch song. It's not one that stands out to me for any particular reason.
All right, so I haven't brought up the AI thing since track 1, but I am going to.
Oh yeah,
I'm going to close this out with AI. And okay, I thought it was an interesting thing, and this is actually something I was going to talk about, but you shut down my AI conversation. But on almost every AI description of each song, it talks so much about the lyrical content over the song content, the musical content, which I thought was interesting. So Requiem, closing the album, the song reflects on themes of loss, remembrance, combining melodic elements with heavy instrumentation and leaving a lasting impression. I don't feel like it left a lasting impression, but, fine.
Yeah, I was going to say, I was kind of on board with most of that until the lasting impression. But again, right. Maybe AI, it's, I guess you could, put the caveat to make it snarky. I feel like it's trying to give a very positive spin on each song.
Yeah. So, all right, Monster, let me ask you a question. What's new with you?
Hey, good looking. What you got? Cooking.
It's interesting. I had mentioned before that a couple of my favorite Killswitch albums from earlier never would be confused with a new metal band, but they had a lot of groove, and they did have moments where they would just chug and bounce, and you could just, headbang to it. There's not a lot of that on this album.
No,
really
not.
So this is a little bit of a cop-out, but I'm going to say it anyway. I'm just going to say I Believe. Because I absolutely love that song. If you take nothing away from my opinion on this album, I Believe is an incredible song. And if you like heavy music, you got to hear it. If you are a spiritual person, you got to hear the lyrics. I think I Believe is an all-timer metal song. So is it new metal? No, but nothing else is either. So I'm just going to say that.
Fair.
Danger was cooking.
And I think this is probably the second time on the show that's ever happened, but I am going to go with I Believe.
Nice. Good choice.
Part of that's because I think it's probably the best track on the album. Actually, I know it's the best track on the album, but
it is.
I also felt like it was just also a good song to cook to. And I played this while cooking twice. I know that for a fact. So anyway, as the person that is dressed for the occasion, would you like to give us your closing summary first?
Yeah, sure.
And I'm changing over to saying closing summary because really every time we get to these, it's just a summarization of what we've already said. So
it is, but it is a closing statement and we are giving a score. So,
All right.
Killswitch Engage is a pioneer of the modern metalcore sound. Their earlier work changed the course of metalcore and heavy metal forever. And the fact that they're still together with their original lead singer and predominantly the same lineup over 20 years later is a testament to just how strong the bond is between these dudes. And when you listen to Killswitch Engage, you can feel that perseverance and determination in both the music and the vocals. This Consequence is the 9th studio album by Killswitch Engage. They have reached a point in their career where they have nothing to prove and are just releasing new music for the love of it. And I respect that. For me, this isn't one of my favorite Killswitch Engage albums. There's a lot I like, but a lot I don't like. It does have one of my new all-time favorite Killswitch songs on it with I Believe, so for that alone, I'm grateful this record exists. If I was trying to get somebody new into Killswitch Engage, this probably wouldn't be the first album I show them. But if it's the one you discover them on, it's also not going to be a bad time. For me, I love so much of their previous stuff, I can just take the few songs I love along with me and leave the rest of this record for others to enjoy more than me. 1 to 10, I said 5.98. Danger? How about you give us your closing summary statement rating?
This Consequence shows us Killswitch Engage's effort to stick to their roots while exploring new sonic spaces. Not all of which hit for me. Killswitch has been around long enough to know missteps, and I think this may have been one. It's a short album at just 35 minutes and 7 seconds, and they show us that they can still write a song. They show us they still know song structure. But what happens to the structure towards the end? Nobody really knows. There's something to the words here, but I wish there was more to the music to pull me in. But the fanboys will engage. I gave this album a 4.85.
I feel like that's a pretty fair assessment coming from a big Killswitch fan and then not a big Killswitch fan.
Yeah, it's not that I'm not I just wasn't a big fan of this. So, all right, Monster gave Killswitch Engage this Consequence a 5.98, and I gave it a 4.85, which gives it an average of 5.415, putting it just below Throwdown and just above Gym Class Heroes.
So Killswitch and Throwdown makes perfect sense.
Yes.
Gym Class Heroes would get beaten up.
Yeah, probably. So with that, if you disagree with the score, then please shoot us an email at breakdownsbreakfast@gmail.com. Or head on over to X or Instagram, Breakdowns for Breakfast across both of those, or head on over and check out the Facebook page that Monster does such a great job at upkeep of. And
Stop.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to make you blush.
I'm blushing.
Head on over to Redbubble, support the show, get yourself a t-shirt, a mug, or something, and let us know what you thought about this episode and what album you'd like for us to do later.
And be sure to check out Second Breakfast, where I will be doing our nice big deep dive into Killswitch Engage's history, but also a lot of other fun stories about a lot of other episodes we've covered, cool music news. We're also going to do some other stuff. We'll probably have some guests. Danger will probably be my first guest. I know him pretty well. I think I can get him on the show. But other than that, of course, thank you guys for listening and tuning in. Danger, I got an important question for you, though.
What's that?
What did the toast say to the butter?
What?
You're on a roll.
Hey, this is Anthony from This Wildlife, and you're listening to Breakdowns. Fuck.